At dawn, a pink light slid across Lake Garda like a caress, and Luca, clutching his poles, looked at Tommaso with the smile of long-awaited days. "Today, Baldo speaks to us," he said. They took the cable car up from Malsacene as the houses became dots, and when the doors opened at Tratospino, the air smelled of cold stone and dry hay. They walked, taking turns leading, unhurried but steadfast, following the red and white trail markers that shone like breadcrumbs on the rocks. Below, the lake breathed softly. Above, the clouds passed like swift flocks. "This is where the week begins to empty," Tommaso noted. "Each step washes away the noise." They passed a small group coming down from the Posette. "Up ahead, a marmot," a girl said, "and the higher up, the view opens the soul." The slope steepened, and on the gray rocks, a balancing act took place. Luca's legs burned just right. His hands found warm, sunny grips. At the first balcony, they stopped to drink. Lake Garda, stretched out like a ribbon of polished steel, reflected the pale shoulder of the Alps. The light filtered into the coastal villages and lit them up. "I'd like to say something intelligent," Luca smiled, "but I'm happy to stay." Tommaso nodded. Mountains are libraries without librarians. They continued toward Cima del Pozzetti. A chamois emerged from the pines and stood watching them, a question mark with horns. In certain rock cuts, it seemed like light fossilized waves. Near a patch of damp earth, Tommaso pointed out a late primrose, the spectabilis, a fuchsia pink, almost indecent in that kingdom of gray. "Hortus Europae," he murmured, "the garden of Baldo." At Posette, the wind became serious, not cruel, but the kind that demands respect. A couple was weighing whether to continue. Luca and Tommaso decided on the ridge toward Cima Valdrita, controlling their pace and breathing, a triangle with the sky. On certain traverses, a shiny chain reassured their approach. Beyond, the ridge widened into a meadow suspended in blue. It was there that they burst into laughter for nothing, the short, clear laugh that surprises you after a steep climb. At the highest point, they began to gaze. Mount Baldo, long and taut, resembled a whale's spine. Their gaze ran all the way to Telegrafo, and beyond, they imagined the Licinia, the clay hills, and the Adige. They ate bread and cheese, sitting in the shelter of a hillock. "We came to tire ourselves out, and we're healing," said Tommaso. "The right amount of tiredness is medicine," replied Luca. The descent toward the Telegrafo refuge was a harp of short steps. Their soles scraped on the scree, their ankles listened. At the refuge, they found colorful tents and low voices. The manager, eyes as clear as winter snow, poured water and a strong coffee. "Are you coming from Malsacene?" he asked. They nodded. "Then you've earned the afternoon view. Stay and watch the lake turn to mercury." They rested for half an hour, then continued. They decided on a loop on the eastern slope, a half-slope that cuts beneath the humps of the ridge. The pastures rang with slow bells. A few cows watched them with the regal inertia of long-time owners. The ground changed from hard stone to elastic earth, from white to dark green. The sun tilted its pen and cast longer shadows. The wind softened, as if it had finished explaining its lesson. They talked about things that never find a place on the plain, the friendship that is preserved through walking, the choices left unfinished, the fear of not being up to par, and the simple joy of seeing so much. At every bend, the lake resurfaced. At every hump, the Brenta revealed itself in jackets of clouds. "I feel like it's passing through me," Luca said. "It's your thoughts," Tommaso replied. "Only you don't usually hear them speak." When they climbed back up toward Tratospino, the world had turned to honey. Their shoes bore the good dust of things done. An elderly lady, carrying a smooth wooden stick, climbed with a steady pace. "You're doing well like this," she said. "The mountain demands kindness." The greeting hung in the air like a knot. Shortly after, the final climb brought them back to the cable car cabin, ready to slide down, losing altitude and gaining memories. Inside, in silence, they watched the path winding down in the distance. Tomorrow's work, emails, deliveries, Luca listed without bitterness. But today we spoke to the stones, Tommaso said. They smiled, like accomplices in a beautiful theft. They had stolen a few hours of respite from time. In Malsicene, the smell of bread and salt welcomed them like a haven. They packed their hiking poles and promised to return when autumn had turned the grass golden. Mount Baldo is a balcony, Luca said. Yes, Tommaso concluded, and today it invited us to look out. And as darkness rose from the lake, they understood that a thread tied them to that ridge. Promise, moderation, patience, gratitude.